The year is 1929. I'm just a businessman, nothing special, but I've got a good eye for numbers and a healthy dose of skepticism. All around me, New York is electric. The air crackles with the promise of endless wealth. Everyone, from my barber to the shoeshine boy, is talking stocks. Buy on margin, they say. It's a sure thing. The market's on a 9-year tear, and it feels like the party will never end. They call it the Roaring Twenties, and boy, is it roaring. People are buying cars, radios, a piece of the American dream, all on credit. The ticker tape machines chatter non-stop, spitting out fortunes with every inch of paper. But I see things others seem to ignore. I'm watching the steel production numbers. They're slowing down. Car sales are flatlining. All these shiny new factories are producing more goods than people can actually buy. The foundation looks shaky, but the skyscraper of stock prices keeps climbing higher and higher. It feels like we are all standing on a trapdoor, convinced it's solid ground. In August, the market hits an all-time high. The experts on the radio assure us we've entered a permanently high plateau of prosperity. I sell off a few of my more speculative holdings. My partners call me a pessimist. I call it being careful. Then comes October. It starts with a little wobble, a shiver running through the market. They call it the Babson break after a forecaster who predicted a crash. Prices dip, then recover slightly. People breathe a sigh of relief, calling it a healthy correction. But on Thursday, October 24th, the floor gives way. Black Thursday. The ticker tape can't keep up with the selling. Panic hits the floor of the stock exchange. You can feel the fear in the streets. Fortunes built over a decade are wiped out in hours. A group of top bankers pulls their money to prop up the market. It works for a day. The weekend offers a brief, fragile calm. People tell themselves the worst is over. But it wasn't. The following Monday, the panic returns with a vengeance. And then comes Tuesday, October 29th, 1929. Black Tuesday, the day the dream died. It's a tidal wave of selling. 16 million shares are traded, a record that will stand for nearly 40 years. There are no buyers, just a desperate, screaming rush for the exits. The value of America's top companies evaporates into thin air. I walk past the exchange, and the silence is more terrifying than the noise. The faces of the men coming out are hollow, ghostly. These were the titans of industry just last week. Now, they look like they've seen the end of the world. And in a way, they have. The crash wasn't a single event. It was the start of a long, slow collapse. At first, President Hoover tells us prosperity is just around the corner. But the corner never comes. My business, a small manufacturing plant, starts to feel the squeeze. Orders dry up. We have to lay off a few workers, then a few more. These are good men, with families. Telling them there is no more work is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. The banks, which had gambled with depositors' money, start to fail. One by one, they shutter their doors. People's life savings, gone. A cloud of dust and despair settles over the country. The cities change. The once bustling streets are now filled with breadlines. Men in worn-out suits, men who once had officers and secretaries, stand for hours hoping for a bowl of soup and a piece of bread. Shanty towns spring up in public parks, cynical little villages of cardboard and scrap metal. They call them Hoovervilles, a bitter monument to the president they blame for their plight. Out in the countryside, it's even worse. A massive drought hits the Great Plains. The topsoil, overworked and depleted, turns to dust. The wind picks it up and blows it across the country in terrifying black blizzards. They call it the Dust Bowl. Families who have farmed the land for generations are forced to pack up their meager belongings and head west, chasing a rumor of work in California. They become migrants in their own country. By 1932, the country is on its knees. The unemployment rate is nearly 25%. 1 in 4 working people has no job. The nation's spirit is broken. We need a change, something, anything. And then comes Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He gets on the radio and speaks to us, not as a politician, but as a friend. His voice is calm and confident. The only thing we have to fear, he says, is fear itself. And for the first time in years, people start to feel a glimmer of hope. He promises a new deal for the American people. He closes the banks for a holiday to stop the panic, and when they reopen, people trust them again. The New Deal is a whirlwind of action. Alphabet soup agencies are created. The CCC, the PWA, the WPA. They put people to work. They build dams, bridges, roads, parks. My own factory gets a government contract to produce materials for the new Hoover Dam. We are able to hire back some of our old workers. Seeing them walk back through the factory gates, tools in hand, is a sight I'll never forget. The government creates Social Security, a safety net for the elderly and unemployed. It creates the FDIC to ensure our bank deposits. These aren't just programs. They are fundamental changes to the relationship between the government and its citizens. The idea is that in a crisis, the government has a responsibility to step in and help. Not everyone likes it, of course. Some of my fellow businessmen call it socialism. They complain about the regulations, the taxes, but you can't argue with the results on the street. People have jobs. There's food on the table. The country is slowly, painstakingly, pulling itself out of the abyss. The Great Depression doesn't truly end with the New Deal, though. The economy limps along for the rest of the decade. What really ends it is something far more terrible: the Second World War. The demand for war materials kicks our factories into overdrive. Everyone who can work is working. The unemployment that plagued us for a decade vanishes. Looking back, the crash and the depression changed America forever. It was a brutal, humbling lesson. We learned that unregulated speculation is a dangerous game. We learned that the economy is a fragile ecosystem, where the failure of one part can bring down the whole. The New Deal created the foundations of the modern American safety net, programs that are still with us today. It reshaped our expectations of what government can and should do. It taught us that our fates are intertwined, that we can't just let our neighbors fall without expecting to be pulled down ourselves. As a businessman, I learned the value of caution, of building on solid ground rather than on speculative sand. And as an American, I learned that in our darkest hours, our greatest strength is our ability to come together, to rebuild, and to look out for one another. The Roaring '20s were a party, but the decade that followed taught us what it truly means to be a nation. Thank you for watching. If you found this story of resilience and change compelling, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the moments that shaped our world.